coming out and telling us that there was a secret government fund to study and research UFOs. Well, what does that mean? And just how is Harry Reid and the crew studying and researching UFOs if they don't exist? The second was Area 51. The government came out and said Area 51 exists. The third, and perhaps the most revealing part of disclosure, was from a former F-18 fighter pilot by the name of Fravor. And this military guy, this Air Force guy, flyboy, stated that he had an encounter with an unidentified flying object off the coast of San Diego, California. And this thing was not of this world. Now that's what he stated. And that wasn't some YouTube video. That was Fox News with Tucker Carlson. And Tucker is in Bill O'Reilly's old slot. This is major prime time. This is like keynote. This is the deal. And he's there. And it wasn't like a 30-second interview. It was more like a 3 to 5 minute interview. And at the end of that, Tucker went off script and basically said, this is really important. Why aren't we talking about this more? Remember, Tucker Carlson is a talking head. He's brilliant, very smart man, but he's a talking head. His producers feed him information on a teleprompter. They do the research. They book the guests. That's how it's done. Now, is Tucker involved in that? Absolutely. Of course he is. But how much did he know about Fravor's F-18 plane? Might not have known anything about it. Might have just been on the docket. He may have quickly read it in the green room before taping the show. The bottom line is, when he was done, the interview with Fravor, that's what he stated. This seems really important to me. Why aren't we talking about this more? And just last night, he actually interviewed Leslie Kean, former New York Times reporter. She's got all the right pedigree. So he gave her the compliment that she's like the creme de la creme in UFO research, which is true to a degree. But let's not dismiss the rest of us who've been in the trenches for like 30 years, and waving our hands frantically saying the phenomenon is real. So Tucker Carlson interviews Fravor, and it begs the question, where did Fravor get the film? Who was acting as a liaison, press agent for Fravor? Why now? Why was this on Fox News? Who booked him in? Poppycock rubbish nonsense, in my opinion. I interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr., and he just said, my father, this whole weather balloon thing has disparaged my father's reputation and caused great harm to our family for decades. And the reason for this is his father was a brilliant man. He was the head of intelligence at the base of Roswell. He'd seen and handled weather balloons countless times. Are you flipping kidding me? This is a disgrace what was done to him. So the wreckage is real, but we want everything by two witnesses. Well, there's more than Jesse Marcel Jr. There's other people that have come on the record. I interviewed a couple who interviewed this guy called Colonel Hill. Colonel Hill was OSS, the coroner of the CIA. He was an interrogator in World War II. And at the end of life, Jim and Carolyn Raskin came in and helped this man clear out his estate. That's what they did for a living. Carolyn, that's what she does. And in the course of 2 years of working with Colonel Hill, they got to know him very well, very intimately. And basically, to cut to the chase, Hill gave them a deathbed confession a month before he passed away. And when asked, was Roswell a weather balloon? Hill stated emphatically, no, not a weather balloon. It was a crash. He was flown from Dallas-Fort Worth to Roswell and tried to make contact with one of these entities that were alive. So that's, what are we supposed to do with this stuff? So when Harry Reid talks about this studying them, let me get a schedule. When Harry Reid talks about the government is studying UFOs, are they in circa 1990, 89, 92, something like that, well before the X-Files. I mean, I could go and look at my paper, because the picture on the back of the picture, he's got it signed and tells us, where it came from. But anyway, it's around that circa 1990, and well before the X-Files, well before anyone knew anything about Area 51. And he would stake this out with other people at a place called the Mailbox, which, by the way, you can't get to anymore. The government brought up additional land, so the place where he was perched looking at the craft, he couldn't get there. And they found out that Wednesday, for whatever reason, was the hot night. Wednesday was the night that they flew the craft. It would come up over the mountains, and it would hover in the air. It would make right-angle turns. All this is people, well, it's experimental aircraft nonsense. A pilot that we interviewed for our film, in their own words, UFOs are real. The guy's name is Dennis, flying from Lima, Peru to Mexico City. This thing came in at 50,000 miles an hour and paced the aircraft for a good 7 minutes. There were these huge beams of light that Dennis believed perhaps there's something to do with the propulsion system. And when it left in a blink of an eye. There were windows, he couldn't see in them. I mean, it was craft. It was real craft. It wasn't some sort of, illusion. And we've had too many people talk about the craft. So the question is, what are we looking at? Where is this technology from? Who are these entities? What is the cat and mouse game? And I do believe, as Jacques Vallée and Jay Alekhinek believe, that these are interdimensional entities. That's what they are. These are interdimensional entities, which are nefarious. They have a dark agenda. And I've written books about it. I've created videos and films and lectured about it incessantly for decades now, and continue to do so, and that's why I'm on your show. First of all, Chariot of the Gods was a game changer. I mean, that Von Daniken, I mean, that book was a game changer. And Sitchin is no longer with us, but he did talk about the Sumerian texts, and even his translations are somewhat suspect by other scholars who have waded through his books. And I'm not here to argue that one way or the other. But I'll say this. getting back to Bondanic, in which they were contemporaries in a way. Bondanic's book Chariots of the Gods basically saying the same thing. We've been visited. It's the basis for ancient aliens, ancient astronauts. I get that. We all agree that something's going on. There's a hidden history in this planet, on this planet, that we don't know, that's been in some ways deliberately obfuscated. In other ways, it's a managed agenda by the powers that be to keep this information hidden, and the powers that be, the elites, do their best. These entities have been around for millennia and continue to do so. The Nephilim, in my opinion, and based on my mentor, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, and the countless books I've read on it, the Nephilim, according to the biblical record, are the offspring of fallen angels and the women of earth. That's what the Nephilim are. They are, in my opinion, soulless. They're in a fixed state. They do not have souls. And yet they're there and they're running around. Some of them were very, very large, giants, over 12 feet tall. In the first incursion before the flood, they could have been 20, 25 feet tall. We don't know. They're all wiped out in the flood. And then afterwards, there's a second, third, fourth, fifth, ad nauseum incursion up to the present day. And then it changes. And this is why I tie it into the abduction phenomenon, but I'm digressing here, and I'll wait before I'm jumping ahead of myself here. So the Nephilim is a hybrid entity. It's a hybrid. Fallen angel and the women of earth. Now, the moment I say fallen angel, most people, a lot of your listeners will just immediately click the switch off in their head. If I call that entity a nefarious interdimensional entity, if I term it that way, a nefarious interdimensional entity, you'll listen to me all day long, because it's a term that you can accept. So now we're into semantics. But if I say fallen angel, a lot of people went to the church when they were young, and they have this false idea of what angels are. Angels comes from the Greek word angelos, which just means messenger. And there are good ones, and there's really incredibly nefarious ones. So what the Nephilim are is the byproduct of nefarious interdimensional entities mating with the women of earth, creating a hybrid being known as the Nephilim. There's a reason for this, which is a 3-hour conversation. They inhabited the earth. There's a reason for the flood of Noah. They are the reason. And what's going on here is there's contamination of the human genome. And we see this over and over and over and over again. In fact, there's an ancient prophecy that goes back about 2,000 years, which says that when I return, speaking of Yeshua, when I return, it will be like the days of Noah, which in my opinion begs the question, what differentiates the days of Noah? Well, there's several things. The lifespan was greatly elongated in the days of Noah. People lived 500, 600, 800 years before they would die. That's one thing. But the other thing, the other dynamic was the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God saw the daughters of men and cohabited with them. So the Anunnaki, in my opinion, right? The Anunnaki are, in fact, another word for these nefarious interdimensional entities. They're written from another culture. You describe them as such. And they have this whole mythos which go along with that. But that's who I think the Anunnaki are. Then we've got the Elohim, which, Elohim again is a biblical term. And from Zechariah, Sis's point of view, the Elohim are sort of the overgods of this whole deal. Well, isn't that interesting? I mean, it's a very similar mythos, as it were. When you go into Greek mythos and you read about Minotaurs and Centaurs, when you read about the gods of Hercules and all these ancient gods of Greece, I think there's a linguistic tie-in, not only linguistically, but I think they're talking about essentially the Titans, which can be traced back into the fallen angels. And we see this over and over and over again. These ancient entities want to be worshipped, and they set up shop all over the earth. In fact, I'm working on a book about this. When you go to Teotihuacan in Mexico, I'd been to that site. I had dysentery. I wasn't feeling good. I was 40 pounds overweight, completely out of shape. I was at 5,000 feet and had altitude sickness. So strike three, I'm hosed. I got up to the first level, and I really didn't appreciate the site until I got home, and my head cleared and I felt better. And then I started looking at my pictures, and then light bulb went on. Where does the technology that created the CO2 to con come from? Where does the engineering, the mathematics, the building skills? Where does it all come from? Who's designing this thing? And you got to remember, there is no new culture that's playing around with a pyramid of shape like the car. This thing just, boom, hello, we're here, and there it is. When you go to Corral in Peru, you see the same thing. Corral is about 3 hours outside of Lima. An ancient city, the oldest city in all the Americas. Been there twice. Pyramids. And of course, you can only go to certain places. It's amazing how all these sites are controlled. Why can't I climb to the top of this building? It looks like there's an altar. Why can't I take pictures and go down into this like area? Why can't I go down? So, that's why you gotta go. It just takes time to hook up with moving archaeologists to open the doors and get you in, get me in some of these places. Corral, the same thing. There is no pre-existing. We see advanced mathematics, we see the knowledge of the solar system, of the way the planets work, of the winter and summer solstice, equinoxes, the lunar progression. It's all there. And where does that come from? There's no pre-existing culture. Where does all this knowledge, where does this knowledge dump? How does it happen? And wherever you go, you see the same thing. And it's global. It's not only in the Americas, it's at Stonehenge, England. Where does the knowledge for that come from? How did they move the stones? Just show me. How did they create this? It's just amazing. But then you go to places like the Great Circle Mountain in Ohio. I've been to Stonehenge, England. It was fascinating. Years and years ago. And I'll get back there again, hopefully, maybe this year, because I want to see it again. But the Great Circle Mountain in Ohio, in Newark, Ohio, which I've been to numerous times and lectured there, it is a level, first of all, it's a circle, it's a henge. There's a moat inside the circle. And at the entrance of the circle, some people estimate that they were serpent heads that were 20 feet tall. Most of the henge, the mounds, are 8 to 12, 15 feet tall, depends where you are. But inside that 1,200-foot circle is a plaza, which is pretty much dead level, because when the moat would fill up, in order to have the moat fill up, you'd have to make that level. Begs the question, how do you do that in antiquity? Archaeologists will tell us that Native Americans took birch bark baskets or deer hide baskets and flint hoes and dug the earth and moved one basket at a time to the mound, and it took several hundred years to build it. But they never tell you, well, how many hoes did you actually find at the site? We were just down at another site along the Mississippi, again attributed to these enigmatic people called the Mound Builders. And the Mound Builders built Cahokia, supposedly, and this other place called Poverty Point. Poverty Point is the second largest earthen pyramid in the United States, Cahokia being the first. Poverty Point's pyramidal complex, pyramidal mound, 390,000 tons of earth. When I asked the archaeologist, well, how did they move the dirt, and how many hoe hammers, how many hoes have you found? He said, oh, about 25. So let me get this straight. 390,000 tons of earth, and you only find 25 flint hoes? Something's wrong with this picture. Something's really wrong with this picture. And how do you compact the earth and shape it so it doesn't wash away? And there are no answers to any of this. And so what we've done, my team, we've got an anthropologist, Rick Woodward, and we had a flint knapper make a replica of the hoe. And when the ground thaws back around Poverty Point, Rick's going to take the hoe, we're going to film all this, and we're going to see how long we can use this hull until it breaks. Is it 1 hour? Is it 8 hours? Is it 2 days? And we're gonna have different people use the hull, and then take the dirt and put it in the basket and dump it 20 feet away, which is it's actually a lot longer than that. This digging site to where these pyramids are. But we'll make it easy, and we'll see just how long and how long before the hoe breaks. Is it going to be an hour or 2 days? But my point is this: if the hoe breaks quickly, then you guys got to rethink your theory.
level that closet so the moat was built. You know, I mean, these are questions that modern archaeologists really don't have any news for, any answers for, in my opinion. They just don't. And so they make it up because they have to be inside the confines of a non-supernatural world. And they have to stay in the confines not only of a non-supernatural world, but any otherworldly interference. So that's the Darwinian paradigm, and that really holds a lot of research in what I would call an intellectual prison, because people are not allowed to think outside the box. Another example of this would be the Beringian land bridge. So we're told, archaeologists, the Darwinian theory, that after the last ice age, as things began to recede, there was this land bridge that connected Asia to Alaska, now called the Bering Strait. So the Beringian land bridge was in operation. People trucked over from Asia looking for game and a different place to live, yada, 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 and came down through North America and fanned out and settled the Americas. And that's true. I'll admit that. That did happen. That's not the only people who came over here.
And this is the basis of our ongoing research with the elongated Paracas skulls. And I got to just announce this because I'm on your show, but on February 2nd, we will be conducting a formal press conference at the Marriott Hotel in Los Angeles. I will be speaking, Brian Forrester, Marcia Moore, who's a 3D forensic artist, Richard Shaw, who's a filmmaker, will be presenting a short film on the enigmatic elongated skulls. Dr. Michael Alday, medical doctor, will weigh in on the genetic differences. Mondo Gonzalez, our archaeologist, will be presenting our DNA evidence. Chase Klotsky was our forensic expert. She will be presenting how we collected the material. Dr. Malcolm Ward is a chiropractor, and he'll be talking about because of the morphological differences in these elongated skulls, we might be looking at something completely different. And of course, Rick Woodward is our anthropologist who came up with some extremely interesting discoveries on these skulls. And that our team, all of it will be presenting the room. We upgraded the room. Originally we could only hold 75 people. We're now in the Meridian room. We can hold 250 people. Seats will go extremely quickly. We also are live streaming the event. More about that soon. And we are charging for the live streaming because this press conference is going to set back our funding about 20 grand. We've been on the trail for 5 years. This is hardcore science. It's DNA evidence. We will be presenting all this. We think it's groundbreaking.